All right, I think this video is going to be pretty high on copium, like extremely high. So overdose warnings here of copium. This is a Space Tomato video titled "The Answer to Star Citizen's Multi-Star System Question: A Monumental Studio Acquisition." So I think this is going to be stroking turbulent a little bit. We still have one star system, so I'm yeah, I'm still okay. We still have just one, but let's watch this. I'm very curious about this.
How will Star Citizen ever include the vast amount of planned star systems? How will it include all these systems in a seamless environment? These are arguably the two biggest questions that have plagued Star Citizen for almost a decade now. And while the entire company, from Frankfurt to Los Angeles to Austin to Manchester, is working towards those goals, a newer studio, created in Montreal, has been an absolute shifting force in answering those two questions. Server meshing, the Hex editor, Mighty Bridge, hospitals, new spaceships, locations in every corner of the game, and more and more. I'm going to show you how Turbulent has made a monumental difference in the scale and possibilities of Star Citizen throughout the years, why it was eventually acquired entirely by the studio behind Star Citizen.
I see you guys making fun of shifting, like that statement. Since they've been acquired, since Benoit has come here and been given a leadership role in the company, there has been a shift in the mentality of the way they've developed the game. Like, it has literally been a shifting force. So I would not make fun of that whatsoever. Will they deliver 100 star systems?
And what it could mean for the future
in a reasonable amount of time? No.
This is another supporter exclusive released early to those who helped to make this possible. If you'd like exclusive videos, behind-the-scenes updates, live podcasts, and your referral code in our referral code randomizer, consider joining as a member down below. For those who already have, thank you for supporting my Tomato Talks.
I don't know if we'll ever see 100. I don't think the game needs it as much. I mean, maybe, but...
There are a myriad of ways Turbulent has helped Star Citizen be realized. With a relationship dating back to 2013, Turbulent has been around for a while, but it's not unique for it. In my earlier video covering Baldur's Gate 3 and its parallels with Star Citizen, we touch on the extent of contracting in the business. Illphonic, Behavior Interactive, and Firesprite, now owned by Sony, are just a few of the companies that have also worked on Star Citizen. In fact, the current resurgence of Arena Commander is due in large part to the current and former Firesprite employees who worked on the mode.
Who is that guy?
So, Turbulent isn't unique in that regard. Where it is unique is in its ability to tackle challenging technical problems. Founded in 2002 by current CTO Benoit Beauséjour and CEO Marc Boudet, Turbulent has worked in film, games, and the web for decades on difficult-to-solve problems. Naturally, Star Citizen was a great place for the Montreal and Toronto-based company to end up. Now, 21 years later, after nearly 11 years of working together and a 25% share stake in 2020, Cloud Imperium Games has acquired Turbulent. Benoit and Marc have become Chief Technology Officer and Senior Vice President Studio Operations respectively, and they're joined by a main team including Louis, Guillaume, and Pierre with over 80 years of experience between them, and another 200 plus employees who will continue with existing projects for now, in addition to the immediate impact that they've had on Star Citizen. Because of this acquisition, new talent pools have been tapped, specifically from Ubisoft Montreal regarding the leadership of the team. New teams have been...
Which, a lot of people don't like Ubisoft, but so far those guys have had, you know, in the end, at least they make video games, right? And I think we need a little bit more video game inserted into our Starship, I don't know, showroom sim.
Formed to help usher in ships, locations, character art, and key technologies faster. And overall, I think a pretty talented company is now fully invested and believing in what Star Citizen aims to be, even if it might have...
But hey, maybe they left Ubisoft for a reason or whatever. Any Ubisoft game I've played, by the way, I've enjoyed. But I haven't played the Assassin's Creed games. I haven't played anything outside of like Anno 1800. Like that's it. Anno 1800 was pretty good.
Taken a little while.
I remember meeting Chris the first time in 2012 and asking, well, are you going to keep crowdfunding? Like, of course we're going to, there's a vision to build. And so I didn't get that at the beginning, right? Now I do.
This was a smart acquisition, but don't take my word for it.
Yikes.
Let's look at the work they've brought to the game so far.
Yikes.
And what's coming next.
So it's all about the vision, guys. The vision of fucking money going into their wallets.
And for the record, there are hundreds of other employees at CIG that have done incredible work around the
And
world over the
long-term
last
careers.
decade to get this game to where it is now. Their work is not to be discounted. But today we're diving into the roller coaster that is Star Citizen development to see how Turbulent was able to help calm the waters in recent years. If you've been a fan of Star Citizen for a while, you've probably heard something to the effect of, they are building the tools so that eventually the floodgates will open, the dam will break, everything happens, right?
It won't.
Now, this is true to varying degrees. The game engine itself needs to be built out so that the game can be made efficiently. We can see how new locations and missions and ships are coming along faster because some of those tools have progressed. But somebody needs to be making those tools for other developers to use while we're all still playing the game. Turbulent contributes to that team. Dating back all the way to the original Spectrum forums, the group has been developing both web and game-based tools. Many of the sales and information pages, the ARC star map, the Galactopedia, the guide system, the issue council, they've all been delivered in some part by this team. The Hex player and reputation management tool is crucial to player progression, but never seen by the players. The Odin interface, which handles the quantum simulation, is also never seen by us, but needs to be functional and efficient to support the eventually millions of...
Excuse me. I know this video was made before this, but it's called Star Sim now.
...economic entities that make up the Star Citizen economy. So game designers and developers around the company need to have the software inside the company that allows them to do that. A lot of that comes from this team. Mighty Bridge is also a very significant part of the more tangible expansion of the game that we need to populate the various planets and space stations with interesting locations. It's also one of those tools that gets used all over the company. It's essentially a tool that allows third-party software to work.
Bro, where is the really cool studio of devs that are making a video game that's fun to play? I'm really excited to find those guys. When are we going to get a really cool documentary from Space Tomato on them? When is that going to happen? I'm dying to see that. You know what? You know what? I'll be really excited for a game development video when there's a bunch of devs on the screen making gameplay that's going to be really fun to play.
Inside of the Star Engine game editor. Houdini is a common application for...
It's like literally Torsten. It's the only time. Torsten and oh, I forgot his name. The two people that did the engineering demo at CitizenCon. They're like literally the only people that have come on stage or done anything that outside of saying that they're going to make gameplay has actually done it. DJ, you don't count. No, Arena Commander doesn't count. Arena Commander is very, very fun. But in this conversation, Arena Commander doesn't count. Arena Commander is super fun. And it's... You're making the tools to make the gameplay better. You're like these guys. Arena Commander is a good tool, right? It's made the FPS stuff better. I guess Zach as well. I shouldn't take Zach out of that equation. Zach and the FPS side, I think that they're really kind of doing some little tweaking and game design stuff as well. But yeah, I mean, we just see locations and the promise of what the game might be. But I just think that there's so much the game could be now or could have been forever.
For this tool because it is so well known and ubiquitous across the industry. See, when considering software development, the game engine being used is as important as the metric versus imperial system in construction. If you're speaking the wrong language, everything's going to end up being a bit off. So rather than needing to recreate every single piece of software a dev may need, they've utilized existing familiarity through Houdini and the Mighty Bridge to quickly expand on caves, space stations, hospitals, derelict ship locations, and other locations around the game.
Ah, yes, we've overcomplicated our game so much that we need this. Yes.
Then there's the Cloud Test Launcher. a tool CIG has developed to allow the team to run scaled tests on the game client doing different activities.
How's that going for you, CIG? That one's going great.
While this may not single-handedly solve the problems incurred from a lack of large-scale testing, like in the 318 PTU, it has already helped with tuning and testing of other components.
Yeah, there was a
What it
Spectrum
does
post
is
about
it creates multiple virtual machines, runs multiple clients on those machines, and simulates the traffic of a certain scenario with a server connection, network load, and everything you'd expect from normal connected players. This can include anything from simulating
and then we jump in game and it's incredibly unstable.
a full capital ship
So it's
battle
just like-
to a bunch of players spawning tons of ships at once and flying off into the distance. As you can imagine, something like this is crucial for an MMO to test at smaller scales rapidly, and will be especially important for the rollout of server meshing. Speaking of server meshing, of all the back-end tech Turbulent has contributed to, this would be the biggest.
Yeah, and it seems like Benoit has spearheaded this, chief technical officer, obviously, right? So we have heard about server meshing for years and years and years and years. And then Benoit comes in and all of a sudden it's like I jumped between 2 points, right? So
Benoit was often the face of the effort behind persistent entity streaming, which created the constantly persistent environment we are in now, and the team has been crucial in the lead up to server meshing as well.
Yes, the environment is very persistent right now. Oh, yes, of course.
And while we could spend several minutes touching
So
on
much
that subject, I'll point you to my last update on the topic and an upcoming server meshing video, which should be out by the time this video is public. Otherwise, let's take a look at the actual locations and features Turbulent has been and will be delivering to Star Citizen. The most significant recent development at the company as of November 2023 is the creation of the new ship team in Montreal. If you've followed the development of the features we are about to cover and know how quickly the team can work, this is cause for celebration. We're already well aware of the first test, the RSI Zeus Mark II, planned to go from white box to in-game in the space of 12 months starting November. This would be following the same...
It will get there, but it was the 12 months or so. Like, this was right after SitCon, so we were all like, yes, dude, more devs, no squadron getting in the way. I held the line, 12 months or so, let's fucking go. And then here we are.
Timeline of a smaller scale ship, the Spirit. Along with the delivery of the cutter Scout, also from Montreal, this will give us an idea of how much this team might help to whittle down the ship backlog. But in this discussion at least, ships are actually a bit boring. Remember that first question that opened up the video? While most of the company is continuing gameplay features...
Yes, Tomato, how are we going to have taken what we heard at CitizenCon, believe them 100%, and by the time this video is live, actually believing that 4.0 would have been a thing?
In engine development, somebody needs to build out our locations.
Basically, our goal eventually is to go at a level where our team can produce entire star systems, and by that we mean not only locations or not only design, like to have an integrated team that can work alongside the other teams at CIG and collaborate, but eventually be able to say, okay, let's do this star system and really develop it as much as possible, including gameplay, including a lot of things.
Okay, yeah, eventually what we want. No timeline. We don't even know if it's possible.
The team isn't just about placing derelict ships on moons and digging out caves with loot in them. The team is creating a tools department, characters team, gameplay development branch, branding team, design, and locations team. This is an entire new branch of CIG, focused almost exclusively on building out detailed, quality, heavily branded, and painfully recognizable star systems for the persistent universe to expand into with all the tools being built elsewhere. And with all these teams existent inside of Turbulent, there are also counterparts across the company that will be able to collaborate and update the game more efficiently with them as we see new locations developed, possibly carrying some of that efficiency through the rest of the company that has seemingly led to so much attention being placed on this studio in the first place. Even before the full acquisition of the company, this has already been very apparent in the Stanton system. Their first major drop of content was across 3.15 and 3.16,
It was
with
really
most
good
of it
too.
being in the massive 3.15 patch. Faster than I thought they would after hearing the news of their joining the team in 2020, the team cranked out the first additions to derelict points of interest in years, as well as new hospitals in Orison, New Babbage, Grimhex, and Area 18. Then in the very next patch cycle, we saw the addition of Lorville's Hospital, Space Station Clinics, and most surprisingly, derelict colonial outposts, which had only
I feel like they've slowed down a lot since then. They were pumping out content.
been revealed in concept 3 months earlier. This was a huge change in pace in Star Citizen development. Almost never were concepts revealed and released in the same year, let alone
Because they basically, they shifted to Pyro, a bunch of content that we can't see. You
2
know?
quarters.
Location team switched to DCs as well, which is these incredibly large, but yeah. Well, like, if you were to rate the DCs now, what rating would you give them? Outside of cargo running, I personally don't have a reason to go.
And these included missions and NPCs that, well, tried to function but mostly didn't. Results varied, but the signs were clear. Things were changing. In 3.18, another crash site was added to the game along with the massive persistent entity streaming development, and with 3.19, the entirety of Lorville saw an update to look more like an actual city. This also gives us a sign of future updates to Levski and Nyx. In the 3.22 patch at the end of 2023, the number of derelict settlements expanded by at least 14. Much larger locations, similar in size to the new...
But like, what do we do with these places? I think like Pickers Field was one of the few. Rappel, they were just like, oh, let's have like an insane, like ridiculously game-breaking trade there. And that would be the only reason to go there.
Towns we see in development for Pyro.
So like these locations, they're awesome. They're doing such a great job at designing locations. But
these may still feature similar missions to what was run before. New locations, factions, and loot opportunities will provide more diverse gameplay.
when you design the location before you design what you do there, the location won't ever make sense. You know what I mean? You design what happens. You design the game first, and then you build the locations around the game. We have not designed the game at all. We're just doing everything backwards forever. It doesn't matter how many fucking studios you acquire. If you're always doing things backwards, it doesn't matter.
Speaking of gameplay, now that Turbulent is an internal part of Cloud Imperium, their gameplay team is folded into the work that the American teams are doing, leading to a restructuring of the PU development teams and the creation of the North American PU team, consisting of Austin, Los Angeles, and Montreal developers.
What have they
These
delivered?
persistent universe teams are developing features.
I think without the progress tracker being updated, it's really hard to tell what's going on with everybody and what they're doing. I remember we used to know who was working on what and what team was doing what, and now we have no idea. And I don't particularly care.
Like
You know?
cargo, salvage, and mining related things. The first goals of this new NAPU team has been to build out the persistent hangars and freight elevator features, but will likely continue to include future cargo gameplay and missions, as well as exploration developments.
All right, so this is what they've been on, but this isn't Turbulent. This is the team in Austin that I think is mostly doing this, with probably support from the rest of the PU team. And this is mostly falling flat on its face right now. It's getting better. It's definitely getting better. They're making progress based on feedback and things like that. But yeah, I mean, this is really struggling to get in there.
This team has also been helping to establish more of the visual identity and design of each star system, and this really can't be understated. We've recently been made privy to more of the branding development going on behind the scenes, showing how the game is tightening the levers on each brand and making sure they fit the style guide and philosophy of whatever in-game entity they represent.
Oh, yeah,
Some
it's
of this
very,
work
very
finds
important.
itself in new ships, some in the new player experience, and some still in the general systems being created. Remember 2 years ago at CitizenCon 2021, the new style of colonialism and the design of Pyro was essentially laid out for the first time, and a lot of that influence was coming from Montreal. The Pyro system derived a lot of its identity and vibe from that panel, and the same will likely be done for every system in the future. Nyx afterwards, and any other combination of Odin, Vega, Magnus, Castra, and Terra will combine new assets with old to scale the game up. Maybe not to 100 systems, but enough consistently with enough detail to engross players for years.
That is the one that I want to pause on and think about and talk about for a minute. Do they need to have the minutia, the minute detail? Do they need to have that for the game to be good? The answer to that is yes. But does it have to be first? Does it have to be detailed now? For me, the answer to that is no. I talked a lot about Eve lately, and I'm going to talk about it again. Talked about it this morning on stream. The experiences that I had in Eve yesterday that were incredibly fun. The first thing I thought about was, how do I apply that to this game? Why do I think that? Because of the kind of work that Montreal does, right? I want to take what I find to be really fun in other games and apply it to the locations, the planets, the space stations, and the ships that we have in Star Citizen because of the awesome work that has been done by teams like Turbulent. There's no denying how monumental that stuff has been, right? But we're starting to see what is happening when they go about this. Oh, yeah, we would really like to go back and apply that kind of stuff to Stanton, and we'll do that eventually. But we can't do that now. You know, we're just focused on Pyro right now and moving ahead, right? So the next system's always going to be better than the last. And there's a lot of problems with this. But in the end, there's no denying that when you look at every other game that you play, how cool would this be in Star Citizen? Why doesn't Star Citizen do this? Oh, if Star Citizen did this, it would be amazing, right? And that is specifically, and for me, I'm not speaking for anyone else, the locations, the planets, ship interiors, the hangars, right? All that stuff. So the type of stuff that honestly Montreal has been spearheading in the last couple of years, but just generally Star Citizen has been very, very successful at doing over the last decade, right? Is these locations. They're fantastic at it. I don't ever want to take that away. But when it comes to what should be prioritized for the long term, they're starting to talk about being an MMO. They're starting to talk about the game being played for a decade or longer. You don't get that by making pretty locations. You get that by making really engaging gameplay. And you know what takes away from really engaging gameplay? Making the locations first and having to dumb down your dog shit gameplay or you dumb down your good gameplay ideas into dog shit because your locations were made first. So, and we don't want to redo work. Well, guess what? You're going to have to redo every single location to some extent because you decided to make them first. They have to accept that that's going to have to be a thing, right? Look at the Reclaimer. They're going to have to redo that thing 3 more times before salvaging is complete. The Mole, the Prospector, all this shit, every single ship, yes, is going to have to get redone. If you're going to make a successful game, because you decided to do all that stuff first. That's on you. That's not on us. That's not on us. That's on you. That's a choice you made, and you didn't make the game at the same time while doing this. So that's on you. And then who's going to suffer for it, though? We're going to suffer for it. And that's the part that blows. So I want to say all the good things because a lot of this stuff is incredible. But the reality of things are we going to be able to have that game that we can play for 10 or 20 years? A lot of the stuff that they did, well, if we do get the game play that will last 10 or 20 years. The locations and all that stuff will enhance that to another level. But right now, it's detrimental towards that, you know?
Other future endeavors, which may not be so future by the time you see this, include building interiors, a procedural method of populating cities, space stations, and towns with commercial, industrial, and residential areas such as hubs for players, and mission locations in cities or underground. There are also underground facilities which seem to double as the recently revealed distribution centers.
We got half of this. We got half of this, basically.
To house raid opportunities, advanced loot,
no raids, no advanced loot,
team-based missions, and collaborative puzzles. These locations are being worked on.
Collaborative puzzles? Yes. Maybe not collaborative, but there's puzzles.
By several teams throughout the company and look likely for next year. Then there is planet development. We recently learned that machine learning will be utilized to help build believable planets that don't just match the proper temperature and humidity that they do now, but also feature unique geographic and geologic locations and weather.
I think we might start to see this in the next Pyro demos,
This will likely be part of the effort in building out these star systems more quickly as the Montreal team was created to do. This has been just one deep dive into one of several studios working on Star Citizen. Each is filled with developers from various well-known studios around the world, many of whom do so for the passion of the project. Looking at the inception of the Montreal studios and teams, there's plenty of the same to see.
Now.
And as the team in Montreal and many others across the world continue towards the goal of server meshing, many more have joined in anticipation of a fun, diverse space experience. There are many stories like this to follow across the various teams working on the game, and I'm only telling you the things I can find from YouTube and other public sources. As always, I'm here to cover this game development journey for you, and will continue with streamed videos and podcasts every week across my YouTube channels and on Twitch. My organization, GII, is always available to you to utilize as a place to get help, ask for advice, and chat for a bit. And if you want to jump into the game, you can use my referral link randomizer down below to get some extra credits or referral bonuses for you and one of my supporters. Besides that, supporters enjoy these exclusive videos before they are released publicly, and every secret code to my ship giveaways throughout the year. They also get to jump in on my live podcasts, which feature a lot of the other YouTubers you might recognize from Star Citizen every week. Consider joining on Patreon or YouTube down below if you'd like to help support us. I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you in the next.
I can't believe Space Tomato talks to SaltEMike. That's unbelievable. He's actively trying to destroy this game. Oh, I just want the game to be great. I was told to check the pinned comment. 3 minutes and only 500 views. Bro fell off. That is so maybe you guys don't know, that's like a common meme on YouTube now, is that everybody goes to a YouTube video, says the amount of minutes, the amount of views, and just tell you fell off. Even though 3 minutes and 500 views is actually incredible. What was his comment? He said, what will I do? I don't know. And then everyone's mad saying Star Citizen fell off, and they just don't get it. It's just a meme. Oh my God, this community is incapable of memeing. Incapable of having fun. Incapable of memeing. It's hilarious. Get over yourselves. Jesus. Will Star Citizen be great? I don't know, but Star Citizen won't be great if our only focus is on locations and not what we do at those locations first. And I'll leave it at that. You can acquire 50 Montreals, but if you're putting the visuals ahead of everything, always and forever, we're never going to have a good game. Okay? What we did here, I can't remember who it was from, but it was one of the developers that was literally said, we've been doing this for a while. This visual first thing, we can't be doing that anymore. And I was like, oh. Just hearing little bits of that here and there, it's nice to hear. CitizenCon 2023 was nice to hear. It was con. Yeah, like Torsten's here saying like which developer said it. It's really nice to hear. There's been some action on what we heard at CitizenCon, but not enough action on what we heard at CitizenCon. I mean, the things that I was super, super hyper fixated on and super excited about, reputation. That has not come in yet. Very little discussion around it outside of SCL this week. That was more of like, it'll happen eventually, but no idea when. Reputation was the one. And then that horizontal and vertical progression in armor. We still haven't seen that kind of happening. I wanted to see things that we were looting, more meaningful, stuff like that. I was really excited to hear those things, and rewards in game that aren't bought on the stores, right? There was like a few things at SitCon that were like, I know a lot of people were like, oh, pyro this or base building that. I was way more fixated on like the little things that build the game up. And yeah, I mean that one PowerPoint screen of the reputation rewards for cargo, and it was stupid stuff. It was like little challenge coin, shirts, right? And it literally said only available to earn in game. That little thing, like their willingness to say that, I thought was something that was really, really important. And yeah, we want to see that action. They still have half the year to do it, obviously, but you can acquire all the developers and all the teams you want, but if you're not changing your philosophy on what this game is and what it should be, I don't see myself playing this as an MMO for 10 or 12 years. Now, again, hearing MMO, hearing that that's what they want to build, I am able to put more of my faith into them that they're on the right track, and I'm able to be a little bit more patient and things like that. But it's hard. It's hard to look at this and be like, yeah, it's going to work out, you know?